Into the second half of Kartik already. And if you want to see the screen, you better sit a little bit over here. If you don't want to see the screen, that's okay too. The action is going to be right here on the screen. This is, we're going to be discussing one chapter from 10th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, in relation to Krishna's pastime in Vrindavan, because it's Kartik month, right? So in Vrindavan, Nanda Maharaj, one day, on a Dwadasi day, was preparing to break the fast from the Ekadasi fast, and he went into the Jamuna River to take his morning bath. And there's a little detail that we'll hear about. But he actually did the right thing, and Varuna's assistant thought he did the wrong thing, and so he arrested him wrongly and took him to Varuna's abode. Now, the image that you see on the screen is meant specifically to say this is from underwater looking up, but not only that, somehow or another, it doesn't say how that somehow, but from the Jamuna River, one can go all the way to the abode of Varuna. There's some kind of a higher dimensional tunnel or something like that. Because most rivers have a bottom, and after the bottom, that's it. You don't go beyond the bottom. But somehow, the abode of Varuna is accessible through some channel or tunnel or a higher dimensional space access. And that's where he was taken, Nanda Maharaj. And that's where Krishna went, and that's when Krishna brought them back. We'll hear some very interesting details as we go along. This is spoken by Shukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit by the bank of the river Ganges. And as you see in the front right corner, that's Narada Muni. He's in the audience. And next to him is Vyasadeva, and so many other great sages are present. And somewhere in there is Sutta, hearing. So this is chapter 28. Chapter 28 comes just before the Gopi Gita section. Starts with chapter 29. So this takes a whole chapter. Here's the first verse. Badarayani is Shukadeva, said, having worshipped and fasted on the Ekadasi day, Nanda Maharaj entered the water of the Kalindi on the Dwadasi to take his bath. Hearing what happened from the mouth of Nanda, the cowherd men were surprised. Because of this, Krishna showed them Vaikuntha. This is what happens at the end of the chapter. They heard from Nanda what the experience was, and they all wanted to see Vaikuntha, and Krishna showed them Vaikuntha. That's what that painting is. He's pointing to Vaikuntha. See? Shukadeva narrates this pastime because, in telling the story of Krishna forgiving Indra for his offense, he remembered how Krishna also gave Varuna for his offense. That's an interesting illustration to go with the story. And in Gopal Champu, some of you know what is Gopal Champu. Gopal Champu was written by Jiva Goswami, and it's a description of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan from beginning to end, and it's being narrated by two speakers. One of the speakers is named Snigdhakanta. You see his name on the screen. And the other is Madhukanta. And they're narrating, they're both disciples of Narada, and they're narrating all these pastimes to the residents of Vrindavan who have experienced them, and they're just narrating them from a higher realization point of view, from what they have understood from Narada. So here's the context is, after Krishna killed Dantavakra, he was on the western side of Mathura. And then he decided to fulfill his promise to visit the residents of Vrindavan again. So he did. He put on his cowherd boy attire, and he went to Vrindavan for several months. And while there, he stayed at the house of Nanda. And while he stayed at the house of Nanda, these two, Snigdhakanta, Madhukanta, narrated all of Krishna's pastimes, starting from childhood up. It's a retelling of the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam in this format. Snigdhakanta, Madhukanta, back and forth. In the morning, so they assemble together at Nanda Maharaj's house, and then the conversation begins in the morning. Snigdhakanta began. Nanda, knowing that only a small portion of the Dwadasi remained for breaking the fast, he entered the Jamuna to bathe before the Dwadasi ended, according to a specific rule. It doesn't say what the specific rule is. But you know that there's the lunar calendar and the solar calendar are different. And the Vedic calendar is known to be a combination, luni-solar combination of. So some days, by lunar calendar, the day begins at a such and such hour. By lunar calendar, when the moon crosses on the other side of a certain nakshatra and enters into another one, that's the end of lunar day, the beginning of the next lunar day. And because the sun moves faster, the moon moves faster than the sun, they don't always match the solar days. So sometimes the sun hasn't risen yet, and the lunar day has already ended, and the next day has begun. So Nanda was going by the rule of the lunar, and Varuna's agent was going by the solar, because you're not supposed to bathe before the sun rises. But you're supposed to break Ekadasi during the during the Sandhi between the Ekadasi and the Dwadasi. So Nanda was following the right rule, and the assistant of Varuna thought he was breaking the rule. Having entered the water, he fearlessly bathed. He began to meditate on Narayana, that's his presiding deity, praised in the Vedas. From his birth, he had full faith in Narayana because he attained Krishna as his son. By that worship, he was even more inclined to worship him. Next, text 2. Because Nanda Maharaj entered the water in the dark of night, that's solar, disregarding that the time was inauspicious, a demoniac servant of Varuna, Asurim, seized him and brought him to his master. Nanda Maharaj was intent, this is Prabhupada's purport. There you see he's wading out into the Jamuna to take his bath. Nanda Maharaj was intent on breaking his fast during the Dwadasi day, of which there remained only a few minutes. Again, that's by lunar calculation. Thus he entered the water to bathe at an inauspicious time, that is, before the first dawn light. The servant of Varuna who arrested Nanda Maharaj is stated here to be a demon for several reasons. One, this is Vishwanath. The servant was foolishly ignorant of Nanda Maharaj's position as the pastime father of Sri Krishna, the supreme truth. You don't arrest Nanda for anything. Second reason, Nanda Maharaj's intention was to carry out the injunctions of the scripture regarding breaking his Ekadasi fast. Therefore, Varuna's servant should not have arrested Nanda on the technical grounds that he bathed in the Jamuna at an inauspicious time, that is, the dark of night, is usually a demoniac time. Clear enough. Varuna had produced this splendid abode by his power to obstruct water. It was situated at the bottom of a pool of the Jamuna, within a cavern in the earth. Wise persons could never imagine that the father of Krishna could be brought there. That's Gopal Champu again, the Snigdha expressing. Whenever you see those two persons like this, they have musical instruments because they're singing the pastimes of Krishna. When the servants brought Nanda, dressed in clothing suitable for vows in front of Varuna, Varuna recognized him by his tulsi and lotus garland, and understood that he had been meditating on Narayana. Extremely frightened, he respectfully put him on an excellent bed furnished with celestial cloth. Now that image on the right, that's Varuna, because the carrier of Varuna looks like, you see what it looks like. Huh? Yeah, but it's a funny looking crocodile, isn't it? Anyway, it's Varuna's carrier. Makara, Varuna's sea crocodile-like carrier with mammal-like legs. Makara. It's a different species. Crocodile-like carrier. Text number 3. Shukadev to Maharaj Parikshit. Not seeing Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd men loudly cried out, "Oh, Krishna! Oh, Rama!" Lord Krishna heard their cries. Now, the Jamuna is not even close to Nandagaon, but he heard. There must have been loud cries. And understood that his father had been captured by Varuna. Therefore, the Almighty Lord, who makes his devotees fearless, went to the court of Varuna Dev. He knew the passage, he knew the password and the channel and how to get there. So there's the elders wondering what happened. They loudly sang, "Oh Krishna, oh Rama," out of great pain, spontaneously. They just uttered the names of the Lord. The name of Krishna is first because they had special affection for that name. Sanatana Goswami writes, or it refers to the two brothers, Krishna and Balaram. This is Jiva Goswami's comment. Although they shouted from far away, Krishna heard the shouts as if close. Upashrutya. Understanding that Nanda had been taken by Varuna, he went close to him. Antikam, since he was all-pervasive. Vibhu, He gave fearlessness to all people of Braja, what to speak of to his father. So again, that's when you see those two figures, it means Gopal Champu, Snigdhakanta, Madhukanta. That's their logo. It's when Nanda, the protector of Krishna, disappeared from the view of the people, they dove in the water, but not finding him, they returned to the shore. They returned to Vraja while waiting in grief and saw Krishna, Balaram, and others who lamented in front of them. So Krishna is with Balaram. On hearing that most lamentable news, Krishna and Balaram's mind sprang into action. They passed all others and moved quickly on the earth with zeal, arrived at the place on the river. And there they are, at that place on the river. Krishna embraced his brother and with tears in his eyes spoke to him. "Oh, brother, keep mother free of lamentation and protect the others. Protect them as long as I cannot make them happy by bringing farther back." In other words, I will, but it may take a while. "When mother comes here, I will not have completed bringing father here," because he's omniscient, he knows. And Balaram, please deal with it. Speaking in this way, he went to bring back Nanda. Though a lion expands his body on destroying his enemy, Krishna put the lion to shame. Gathering up his lower cloth, he disappeared in the Jamuna into a deep hole. You better ask Krishna for where to find that hole. And there's Balaram by the shore of the lake, by the shore of the Jamuna, holding people back, telling them what has just happened. The moment Yashoda and others also arrived and saw Balaram alone, they looked for Krishna and asked, "Where's your younger brother gone?" Seeing that Yashoda was full of grief, he spoke, "Oh, mother, do not be grieved. He will now bring back Nanda and make everybody happy." As is the case in the Kaliya incident, the elders, considering that Balaram's words would cause her recovery, made her relax. Balaram's powerful in many ways, not just killing Dhenukasura and others. Praptam. Seeing that the Lord Rishikesh had arrived, the demigod Varuna worshipped him with elaborate offerings. Varuna was in a state of great jubilation upon seeing the Lord, and he spoke as follows. Now he knows Nanda is Nanda, so he gave him a special seat. Now here's Krishna, and he knows who Krishna is. So he worshipped him. And meanwhile, Nanda's watching. Now he's going to praise him, and Nanda's going to hear. He's going to get bewildered. Varuna understood that Krishna, the inspiration to the senses, is generally invisible to the senses, had come very near to him. Now, these paintings are interesting. It shows fish swimming around. But, I don't know if the Abode of Varuna is with fish swimming around. So, don't take it literally, Prabhus. It is understood that then Varuna approached him. He worshipped Krishna to his ability. Jiva Goswami writes, previously, Krishna had been angry at Varuna's wicked servant. On meeting Varuna, however, Krishna saw that he was not too bewildered, though somewhat frightened, and that he had approached while offering respects. Krishna then appeared to be forgiving, having made certain that he attained his own desires, that is, obtaining his father. So now we're back to Snigdhakanta and Madhukanta. Though Krishna's body was black, it appeared red out of anger. Though his eyes destroyed darkness because of their intense gaze, they were difficult to behold. His quality of softness became ferocious because of anger. His voice was like the rumbling of thunder in a cloud at the time of final devastation. This astonished all people. This is their Snigdhakanta Madhukanta telling the story. And remember, the audience is all the Brijbasis. Nanda is there, Yasoda is there, Krishna and Balaram and Radharani are there. They're hearing. It's like Ram hearing Ramayana from Love and Kush. Very similar. Going to Varuna's abode, similar to a hole, Krishna displayed boldness toward Varuna, thinking, where is that Varuna? When Krishna had increased his powers with the desire to attack him, Varuna, with his cloth covering his throat, touched his forehead to the earth. Seeing Varuna's pride crushed, his followers also offered respects on the ground. Not on the fish, but on the ground. Where is my worshipable father, the performer of the highest Dharma? Varuna. Oh, highest Lord, a person who resides where you stay and resides nowhere else attains the highest powers and becomes the foremost. I am one of your many servants. How can I follow your order? And he just asked the question, where's my father? Pretty straightforward. And he's saying, your wish is my command. Having given up his anger, Krishna spoke with a peaceful heart. Punishing these insignificant fellows will simply destroy the prowess of the punisher. Quickly, show me the lotus feet of my father. Next, text 5. Sri Varuna said, now my body has fulfilled its function. Indeed, now the goal of my life is achieved, O Lord. Those who accept your lotus feet, O personality of Godhead, can transcend the path of material existence. There's Varuna on his crocodile-like makara. All the thousands of bodies which I received till now have been useless because all those lives I did not see you. Today my body has become successful. That is the indication of the word nibrita. Ni for nitaram, complete or successful, and brita for accepting a body. Nibrita. So there we are with a lot of fish swimming around again. BBT painting. There before Varuna, and to the right, that's one of Varuna's assistants. Yeah. Today I have understood what is the most valuable. Though I possess all jewels, I have not obtained such a jewel as you yet. Those who worship your lotus feet cross the ocean of material life. Advan Pataha. I have without effort attained your darshan. How fortunate I am. That's Varuna. I mean, he didn't do anything. His assistant did something. He's taking responsibility for the wrong of his assistant. But he's got some good fortune. Krishna came even without his having to do anything. Next verse. Text 6. He offers some prayers. My obeisance is unto you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Soul, within whom there is no trace of the illusory energy which orchestrates the creation of this world. Remember, Nanda's hearing all this. So in the purport, Prabhupada outlines the three features of the Absolute Truth, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. But it's not in the standard order. It's first Bhagavan, then Brahman, then Paramatma. So there's acharyas get into it. Why has he adjusted the sequence? Is there a reason for his adjusting the sequence? Bhagavan means he is the cause of creation, maintenance, and destruction, and is also not the cause. He is outside of the waking, dreaming, and deep sleep states. By him all bodies, senses, and pranas are brought to life and move. Knowing this, form of Narayan alone, Narayana. That's Bhagavan, just like what was shown to Lord Brahma. Now, in order to make the meaning of Brahman clear, Bhagavan is explained first. Since this tattva has been explained as one only, which with differences of quality and no quality manifest, there are differences in the names of the manifestations of Brahman and Bhagavan because of the different realizations of the respective worshippers of these forms. So what's that saying? The Absolute Truth is one entity, but according to the worshipper of that Absolute Truth, they're going to perceive differently, and therefore there's different names of the one entity. Right? Okay. Bhagavan is called not being the cause in this verse because he resides indifferent to the creation by the actions of his Swarup Shakti. He is the cause of creation, maintenance, and destruction through his form as Paramatma, which stimulates Prakriti and Jiva into different conditions. This is just a quick lesson from our acharyas on the distinction of these three features. And so one may address this or the other feature, and it's quite okay because it's one entity, but one needs to be clear which of the features is being spoken of or addressed. Text 7. We're about a third of the way done. Your father, who is sitting here, because that was his question, where's my father? Your father, who is sitting here, was brought to me by a foolish, ignorant servant of mine. Janata mamakena. Foolish, ignorant servant of mine, who did not understand his proper duty, therefore, please forgive us. He's taking responsibility for his servants' misconduct. Ajanata mamakena mudhena. Or, this was done by my ignorant servant who is a fool. This foolish servant did not understand the position of Krishna or Nanda Maharaj or devotional service to the Lord. What to speak of rules of when the lunar calendar and solar calendar. Now, more important and higher understanding is who Krishna is and who his father is. We came across this just the other day where Someone was being chastised. If I speak it, maybe I'll remember it. Someone was being chastised for not having a proper understanding of the residents of Vrindavan. They're not to be disrespected. They're not to be treated as if they're ordinary, because they're not. And one who does is acting improperly. Do you remember the context? Amara? No, it was from a pastime. Okay, it'll come up. Moving on. So Krishna's responding. He's not speaking this verse in the Bhagavatam, but our acharyas are indicating when he hears Varuna speak this way, his reply is, "What? Why are you embarrassing me by praising me like this?" So Varuna says, "I have really offended you." With this mood he speaks this verse, that one can enter into the water before the sun rise. If a little of the Dwadasi alone remains, is permitted by those knowledgeable of bhakti scriptures. Is it clear? No? Yes? Yes, okay. One of my servants, not knowing this, took your father away and committed a great offense. The offense of my servant is also my offense. That's a key understanding in Vaishnav behavior. Krishna showed it himself with Jayan Vijay. What Jayan Vijay did to disturb the four Kumaras, the Lord accepted it himself, although he didn't do it. And conversely, when you're representing some higher authority, you're responsible to the higher authority because you do something that reflects badly on them. So don't reflect badly on some higher authority. It's not good. Point, here's Nanda, Varuna gesturing. He's standing. Nanda is sitting in the throne, and he's gesturing with his hands to Nanda. There he is. Pointing with his hands, he showed Nanda seated on a jeweled throne, worshipped by Varuna himself. Now in this painting, it's a nice painting, but there's the fish again. And not only that, there's Balaram. And Balaram isn't there. Anyway, the artist had a good time painting a nice painting. His father was engaged in remembering his own worshipable deity, Krishna. Vishwanath writes, "You are the ocean of forgiveness, but because I am the ocean of offense, you can punish me suitably if you wish." He continues, "O Krishna, seer of everything, please give your mercy to me. O Govinda, you are most affectionate to your father. Please take him home." Govinda. Significance of Krishna being addressed as Govinda. Sanatana Goswami wants to comment. Govinda means he who enjoys Swarga as Indra. Thus, Krishna is Varuna's master. Or, though he was an offender, Krishna would be merciful as he had been accepted Abhishek from Indra as Govinda. It was appealing to his kindness shown to Indra. It's because it's similar. we heard at the beginning. Shukadev, having just finished the Govardhan Leela, where Indra was excused, so now comes, and Varuna was also excused. So they're not chronologically in sequence, but emotionally there are. And so therefore he's addressing him as Govinda. Or, Nanda is suitable as your father since you are Govinda. Oh, Lord, affectionate to your father, please take him. Or, please take him quickly home since the time of breaking the fast is almost over. Now, it was already a few minutes and a whole bunch of stuff has happened, so maybe it's a different demigod time or something like that that's passing, and when he gets back to Earth, it's going to be too late. Anyway, there is a deep meaning to the phrase, affectionate to your father. What's that? Because Krishna had affection for his father, he, Krishna, should come to Varuna's place for his father. Then, in his house, Varuna could see him and worship him freely. Thinking in this way, Varuna had brought Nanda here and put him in his house with devotion. My wish has been fulfilled. Now you may take him. Acharya is taking different meanings from the Sanskrit words, which is perfectly appropriate. Okay, there's our Snigdha Kanta Madhukanta. Back to their narration. Not seeing Krishna with his eyes, but sensing him by his fragrance, Nanda regained consciousness to the astonishment of the assembled persons. They're back on the shore now. The meditation on Narayana, which began with his bath in the Jamuna, was now broken. Krishna touched his father's feet, raised him up, and embraced him. Oh, Father, I have come in this way. He brought him, Nanda, to his senses. Though they both were intensely emotional, to control their hearts and dissipate their tears, Krishna spoke. Oh, Father, you have been confined here. Nanda looked around. Where are we? He looked at the face of his son in astonishment. Krishna said, Oh, Father, do not do anything else. Just as I have come here, we will return to Vraja. Get ready to put your lotus feet in that direction. Of course, this is all commentary, giving like the thoughts and the subtle things going on. Oh, Krishna, you are compassionate. Please either punish me or show me mercy, but do not let my offense, this is Varuna, but do not let my offense remain. Punish me, but don't let me linger in a pending offense. Offense will not cease without punishment or mercy. So whichever you wish, punish me or give me your mercy, but don't let this offense remain. That's a nice expression, isn't it? As the two of them were leaving, they stood there for a moment. Varuna offered various gifts at their feet and paid his respects. Now, back in Braja. Thus, satisfied by Lord Varuna, Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality Godhead, Lord of Lords, took his father and returned home, where their relatives were overjoyed to see them. I bet they were. They've been gone for some time now. Satisfied by the methods described, by treatment, words, and action, Krishna returned. Why was he satisfied with just that? For such a great offense. Well, Krishna is omniscient. And he knew that actually Varuna had not made offense. In fact, Varuna did it with the desire to see me. And there's that carrier Varuna again. Very different looking out crocodile. Nanda Maharaj had been astonished to see for the first time the great opulence of Varuna, the ruler of the ocean planet, and also to see how Varuna and his servants had offered such humble respect to Krishna. There's two things. Opulence, wow. And he, with such an opulent person, is worshiping my son. Wow. And so he was sharing these things with the Brijvasis. And, if Nanda Maharaj doesn't understand, how are they going to understand? Because they all look up to him. Nanda saw the great opulence of Varuna, which was astonishing to the senses, and the respect given to Krishna by Varuna and other devas protecting the planet. Interesting painting, huh? Krishna's on a seat that looks like a throne. There's musicians over there on the left side. Ladies on the right side. Krishna's being praised. And here's Nanda having his conversation with the elders. Nanda profusely praised the great prosperity of Varuna, which was beyond human comprehension. He then described the great reverence that the inhabitants displayed for Krishna. So they're way, 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 way up there in opulence beyond anything we know here on earth. And they're offering respect to Krishna like anything. So what position does that put Krishna in? After Nanda's description, they were all astonished in their hearts, and they thought as follows. Even if it is true that he is the Lord because of his indestructible power of knowledge, natural affection, and the giver of complete bliss, because of this our minds are always eager to see his excellent qualities, which destroy all longing. Will he show us this excellence without restriction? And one thing is their eligibility, and then the other thing is Krishna's willingness to show his true identity in the spiritual world and everything. Hearing about Krishna's pastimes with Varuna, the cowherd men considered that Krishna must be the Supreme Lord. In their minds, O king, were filled with eagerness. They thought, will the Supreme Lord bestow upon us his transcendental abode? Pretty bold, huh? They want to see the spiritual world, and they want to know if Krishna is going to take them there. Prabhupada's purport. The cowherd men were filled with excitement upon hearing how Krishna had gone to the abode of Varuna to rescue his father. Suddenly realizing that they were in fact dealing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they joyfully conjectured among themselves about their auspicious destination after finishing their present life. Clear? Okay. Because he sees everything, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God, had automatically understood what the cowherd men were conjecturing. They didn't say it, but they were thinking and talking amongst themselves. And he's omniscient, so he knew what their think was. Wanting to show his compassion to them by fulfilling their desires, the Lord thought as follows. So they want to see the eternal abode if they're going to go there, if he's the Supreme Lord. It's like if they want to see the spiritual world, and Krishna knows. So he's considering their desire, and he's going to show them because he's Bhaktavatsala. Understanding the desires of his relatives, Svanam, Krishna, who had knowledge of all realizations, the happiness of Brahman, of Vaikuntha, and Vraja, Bhumi, began to think in order to fulfill their desires. So, like, what's a good strategy to take care of what they're wanting? Though usually he covers or withdraws his majesty according to the degree of prema, in this case, by the inspiration of the Leela Shakti, he had knowledge of all his forms simultaneously. Krishna thought. Though these cowherd men actually understand that Brahman and Vaikuntha are insignificant because of tasting sweetness of Krishna prema, I will give them realization of Brahman and Vaikuntha happiness in order to fulfill the desires they manifest while they play the roles of unintelligent humans. Okay. Carrying on. Lord Krishna thought, he's going to show them the spiritual world. Certainly, people in this world are wandering among higher and lower destinations, which they achieve through activities performed according to their desires, and without full knowledge, thus people do not know the real destination. Nate vidu. Swarta Gatim Hi Vishnu, that one. One of the fundamental philosophical principles of Srimad Bhagavatam is the distinction between two types of illusion. Yogamaya, Mahamaya. Yogamaya is the spiritual state of existence. Mahamaya, material state of existence. In the material state of existence, the essence is turning attention away from Krishna. And the essence of the other is turning attention toward Krishna. It's one of the rules of chanting is be attentive. Don't be inattentive. Because that's the material energy. Being attentive is the spiritual. When my father saw the opulence of Varuna, which is material, he then considered this Vrindavan to be lower than the planet of Varuna, even though it is the essence of Vaikuntha. Just like a foolish person on seeing an inferior pearl will be astonished at its form and luster and think the valuable pearl to be inferior. Liberation and Vaikuntha are both dependent on me. I'm not dependent on them. But it is seen in some circumstances that I'm dependent on prema. Though this is evident to all, they do not recognize it. Krishna puts himself subordinate to his devotees out of prema. He reciprocates with their love in that way, and no problem at all. But people that are in the material context of an understanding of life, they don't understand it. Now, going to the position of Brahman. Brahman, nice illustration for Brahman, isn't it? Brahman is the effulgence of my body. This Brahman is without limit, beyond Maya. It says in Bhagavad Gita, I am the basis of Brahman. Matsya says, my greatness is called Para-Brahman. Thus, Brahman is my all-pervading formless light beyond material perception, but I am also eternally present in various sweet forms, which are relished by senses, anointed with prema. Now, this is we read the philosophy, and then this is an exhibition of the philosophy. That's what Puranas do, histories do. There's the philosophy, and then here's what it looks like when you live it. That's the history. But it's not fiction history, it's realization history. Especially for those who are anointed with prema, then they can see the highest position. The position of Vaikuntha. So remember, it went Brahman, then, Bhagavan, then Brahman, now Vaikuntha. As far as Vaikuntha, as the Padma Purana says, the area of Mathura is superior to Vaikuntha. Rupa Goswami writes that, doesn't he? In his Nectar of Instruction. But it's not just he made it up, it's Padma Purana. Within Mathura is Vrindavan, the eternal abode of Krishna, which is not affected by even the final destruction of the material world. Though Vrindavan is superior to both Brahman and Vaikuntha, the cowherd men desire to attain the experience of mukti. They're already liberated. They're already beyond liberated. But they don't see themselves that way. They see themselves as simple village people. They desire to attain the experience of mukti and Vaikuntha only because they had not seen them with their eyes. Quote, therefore I will reveal these to them now, directly. I'm going to show the spiritual world. Thus, deeply considering the situation, the all-merciful Supreme Personality Godhead Hari revealed to the cowherd men his abode, which is beyond material darkness. So if you ever want to see Krishna's abode and still be in the material world, you know where to go. Become a cowherd boy or a cowherd elder, and you'll get there. So here's that painting again. See Krishna pointing into the sky. Balaram is pointing into the sky. His father is looking up into the sky. All the elders are looking into the sky. The ladies are looking into the sky. I will show the superiority of Vrindavan by giving them realization of Brahman and Vaikuntha. He showed them Brahman and Vaikuntha. Now what this means is, they're not only respecting trees and shrubs and vegetation and things like that, and then animals, and we don't kill animals and things like that. But everything in Vrindavan is already on the transcendental platform. So it's actually bringing down to the Vaikuntha and Brahman level. So, they can see how special they are. Because when they see, they're going to see themselves in that place. Separating the cowherd men from Vrindavan for a few moments, he showed them Brahman and Vaikuntha. He did this because he was most merciful. That is, He wanted to show them that the sweetness of Vrindavan was superior to Brahman and Vaikuntha. That was his objective. Plus, he's reciprocating with their desire. Snigdha Kanta goes on. Nanda and the cowherds thought that if they bathed on the full moon of Kartik month in Brahmarada, that's the same place where Krura sought his realization, but that happens later, which gave blessings to Krura, they would quickly receive full results for their desires. So that's where they go. Thinking this action to be the best, they went to Brahmarada in the early morning. Krishna went along with them and submerged himself in the river and then went to the bank. He then showed them Goloka, full of eternity, knowledge, and bliss, endowed with form, taste, fragrance, touch, and sound by its spiritual nature, and which is not revealed even to Atmarama, since it is covered by the Lord's energy, so that no one can see it. So there he is, pointing to the spiritual sky. Balarama is pointing to the spiritual sky. And whether they can see it or not doesn't sound like they can see it. But he's alluding to it, and by his alluding to it, that gives them faith. That place is called Brahmarada, a planet with the human form of the Supreme Brahman. Human form. Visible by withdrawing the curtain as if revealing a wonderful picture. The curtain of Yogamaya drawn back, one can see, then he closes it. Because when it's closed, they're in Vrindavan again. They saw that Krishna, the tilak of their family, was sitting among the cowherds similar to themselves. Seeing Krishna with his people in Brahmaloka, the inhabitants of Braja gave up lamentation and felt increasing happiness because of feeling bliss with mixed astonishment. Now all those little bubbles, those are an artist's depiction of some pastime or another. Again and again. Different pastimes. So these devotees, they're in Vrindavan. They're already beyond Vaikuntha. They want to see Vaikuntha. They're already beyond Vaikuntha. So he has to pull back the Yogamaya curtain so they can see down. And then he pulls the Yogamaya curtain back, and they don't see it again anymore. In fact, they even forget it, what they saw. They don't go, composing songs and sending text messages. They're in this Yogamaya influence where they only know Krishna is their beloved friend or child or something. Text 15. Lord Krishna revealed the indestructible spiritual effulgence, which is unlimited, conscious, and eternal. Sages see that spiritual existence in trance when their consciousness is free of the modes of material nature. So the Brijbasis are already freed from the modes of material nature. They're not doing some meditation after a long, and some austerities and and they're just simple village people. But they're seeing what, the most perfected yogis and transcendentalists can see in their meditation. It's higher than meditation. It's higher than impersonal Brahman. There's the moon, full moon. Krishna Loka and innumerable other Vaikuntha planets float in an infinite ocean of spiritual light called the Brahmajyoti. Brahmajyoti, spiritual light. For example, if we want to show the moon to a child, we say, look up into the sky See the moon over there in the sky? Similarly, Lord Krishna revealed the vast spiritual sky to the residents of Vrindavan, but the actual destination of the Lord's associates was his own spiritual planet. I mean, they're already there. They want to see Vaikuntha. They're beyond Vaikuntha, but they don't feel it. They don't have a recognition of that fact. Okay, move on. The cowherd men were brought back by Lord Krishna to the Brahmahrada, made to submerge in the water, and then lifted up from that same vantage point that Akrura saw the spiritual world. The cowherd men saw the planet of the absolute truth. Nice. The planet of the absolute truth. So he's fulfilled their desire. Krishna brought them to the lake of Brahman, the great reservoir of Brahman, Vaikuntha, having the condensed form of Brahman. This means he made them have a direct vision of this or Nita. Yesterday evening, it was purposely sequential, was chapter 8, the end of chapter 8, where Krishna shows the universal form to Mother Jashoda, not because she wanted, but just he wanted. He wanted to give her an astonishment experience, and she was certainly astonished. And he's now showing the spiritual world, the Vaikuntha realm and the spiritual sky, to the Brijbasis. Otherwise, they're not going to see it. They'll see what they see. They see what everyone sees. But he's now showing them that the position is that they're in presently is even superior. They were pulled out by Krishna, seeing the sense it was not desirable, being an obstacle to the rasa of Vrindavan pastimes. Although it was blissful, it was less blissful. Now, let's just make a little comparison, because our acharyas do. Later, much later, when Akrura is taking Krishna to Mathura, he goes to the very same place and he sees something quite similar. Isn't it? So how is the vision different? Although they were pulled out of this vision, they saw Vaikuntha, full of eternity, knowledge, and bliss, the source of Brahman. But because they played with Krishna and saw Krishna directly, they did not find this too significant. Even Akrura, who caused suffering by separating them from Krishna, had seen it by Gyan, but the cowherds saw it directly with their eyes. Thus they were greater. Clear? Text 17. Nanda Maharaj and the other cowherd men felt the greatest happiness when they saw that transcendental abode. They were especially amazed to see Krishna himself there, surrounded by the personified Vedas who were offering him prayers. Not only that, they were there personally, not some kind of copy, but they were personally there. That's what they saw. Now there's these three, Brahman, Vaikuntha, and Goloka, stages of realization. Nanda and the cowherds saw more than Akrura, and experienced greater bliss than Akrura. They were in the Goloka position. Seeing the place of Krishna, which was related to them, they naturally experienced the highest bliss. So they related to them means they saw themselves there. They saw Krishna, they saw the place, and they saw themselves. And specifically, the commentators say, they didn't see any of the other Vrijbasis. They just saw themselves. Not like the other Vrijbasis aren't going to go back to Godhead, but they're seeing themselves present in the spiritual world. Because they're already in the spiritual world. It's like looking in a mirror. Do you see what your face is? You don't see other people's faces, but you see your own face in the mirror. Something like, not quite the same, but something like that. They were astonished because Krishna maintained his mood as a son. Even there. By mentioning Krishna directly, the verse indicates that this place is different from other Vaikunthas and establishes this place as the highest abode. This place means where they were, Vrindavan. This pleasant Vrindavan is my only abode. There, all cows, animals, birds, insects, and humans are without death. Those who live under my mercy come to my abode undying. You die in Vrindavan, you go back to Godhead. And even your consciousness may not be the most elevated. And if your consciousness is the most elevated, then you're in Vrindavan consciousness. It works that way. This place, that's Vrindavan, measuring 5 yojanas, is not different from my body. Krishna is giving them that experience. The daughters of the cowherd men live in my abode. Completely giving up all connections, they serve me continually. The Yamuna, flowing with the sweetest nectar, is the susumna, or central nerve of that body. We're at slide 86. We have 10 slides to go. We're winding up. But it's the statements here are important. They're kind of like foundational for like the whole message of Braja Prema or Braja Bhakti. The distinction between Vrindavan and other abodes in the spiritual dimension. It's a nice painting. Sometimes the gopis are feeling separation from Krishna. But that separation from Krishna is another intensification of their love. All the devas and elements, this is Gautamiya Tantra, exist there with spiritual forms. The embodiment of all the devas, I do not leave that forest for a moment, though I appear and disappear in this world age after age. But this radiant forest full of pleasure is invisible to the material eyes. So it's a spiritual place. Now they had the residents of Vrindavan had the Vaikuntha realm revealed, but they're not yet fully understanding their own position. Their own position is in the superior position. And to some extent, or let's say indirectly, Krishna is giving them that realization. Some other nice paintings of Krishna in Vrindavan. There's Krishna Balaram in Vrindavan. A close-up of Krishna Balaram in Vrindavan. another evening dress of Krishna, Balaram, and Vrindavan. Whoops, Radha Shyamasundar, excuse me. And close-up of Radha Shyamasundar and Gaura Nitai. And there's Srila Prabhupada in his quarters in Vrindavan. So we get to see, by seeing those deity forms of the Lord, we get to see the Supreme Lord. But we probably don't have a clear understanding of what we're doing when we're doing it. But it's not the same, of course, because our consciousness isn't the same. But it's similar to the experience of the Brijbasis, because they're already fully absorbed in the transcendental plane, but they're thinking we're not there yet. Well, maybe he'll be kind. If he's God, maybe he'll show us his abode. And if we become attached to him, then we'll go to that place. But they're already in the place. They're thinking of themselves, although they're elevated, the thinking of themselves is not elevated. But they're the most elevated. Okay. Well, it's quarter to 8. We've been going for an hour and 15 minutes. It's kind of a long chapter, but it has a lot of important teachings in it, especially with our having some appreciation of the special nature of Vrindavan in comparison to Vaikuntha or any other spiritual abode. So it probably should take more than an hour and 15 minutes. Probably should take a few classes to go over all those points. But we're done. Let's see if there's some discussion.
Maharaj, usually when we use the word Maha, it usually means that something greater than the more common of it. For example, mantra, and then there is Maha Mantra. Prasad, and then there is Maha Prasad. Sagar, and then there is Maha Sagar. So my understanding was that Maha Maya would be of a more superior quality than Yoga Maya. But it's the other way around, it seems. So I just want to understand that aspect. Why do we say that Mahamaya is actually inferior quality than Yoga Maya?
Why not? Meaning, it's great. It has everybody bewildered. Mahamaya. Who's not bewildered? Mahamaya. But even greater than Mahamaya is another Maya. Yoga Maya. What's yoga? Linking, connecting. It's greater than Mahamaya. I don't see a problem. It's great. How many living entities are not bewildered? That's Mahamaya. You can say Maya. It's Mahamaya.
Okay, Maharaj, thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So here is one application point for me, Maharaj, that how Varuna is taking a very, very humble position and he is respectfully talking to Krishna, just similar to like Bali Maharaj surrender. I was just trying to relate to this. And Krishna gets very much pleased. And I felt that this is the pastime where like he's not breaking anyone's pride here in this pastime. Usually that happens, that he's breaking someone's pride. but this was a pastime where Varuna is already very in a humble position. So that was one application, how Krishna likes one to be humble. And question I was thinking, Maharaj, that when Brajavasis understood something about Krishna, they started thinking that maybe Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Maybe this, maybe that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was a little bit confused when they started thinking that will he show his transcendental abode. So, I mean, instead of offering him some service after that realization, they are thinking that he will give them something or show him his abode or something. So there little confusion, Maharaj, that how to.
I'm confused what your confusion is.
So when
they're asking for something instead of saying thank you.
Instead of offering some service because they are realizing probably he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Oh, I don't see a problem. They're curious. They're like children.
Very innocent and clear-hearted persons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And they, service. They're serving. What else do they do?
Yeah.
So they're curious. If he is, then will he show us? The commentary says they are thinking that they are conditioned souls. They're caught in the wheel of samsara.
Right.
They're thinking we're like that.
Right.
So if he is the supreme, will he show us his abode? They're serving. They're perfectly Krishna conscious. There's not serving.
Yes, Maharaj. That clarifies
Okay.
the point.
Okay.
And then, Maharaj, in that slide, 2 types of illusions. We saw that slide, but I couldn't understand that Yoga Maya is any kind of illusion. It is.
Certainly, they're an illusion of thinking he's other than the personality of Godhead. He's my little boy, or he's my whatever. That's Yoga Maya.
Okay.
They're not seeing they're not seeing Vaikuntha. Narayana.
Okay, so that is spiritual illusion. We can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nanda had great respect, great faith in Narayana, but his son is the source of Narayana.
Right. Yes.
He's not seeing that. That's Yogamaya.
Yeah. And Maharaj, related to that offending the Vaishnavas, was it like Mother Yashoda is thinking that I'm thinking myself to be the queen of all the Brajavasis?
It's a bodily conception. She's not. I mean, it's acting in a dutiful sense, but she's berating herself as if, this is for the people who weren't attending the class, seeing the universe within Krishna's mouth. What is this? And so she's cleansing herself of the misconception, the designation that I'm the mother, I'm the wife,
Yeah.
I'm the queen. And then the next moment, Krishna covers her with Yogamaya, and she's mothering him all over again.
Yeah. So that was not that my memory is not serving. But
Okay.
thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So my question was kind of related on the point when you said that Nanda Maharaj thought that he was bathing at an inauspicious time. So why was nighttime chosen to be inauspicious?
It's said specifically, it's a time that is the time for rakshasas and demons. It's a mode of ignorance time, thus inauspicious. It's like what we heard in the morning class. You were heading off to school. But when Nanda Maharaj was going to go to visit Prayag, Krishna said, better you wait till tomorrow, because it's Akshaya Tritiya, it's an auspicious day. So when we observe Ekadasi or appearance days or something, auspicious days are auspicious days. Other days are not necessarily inauspicious, but there's auspicious and there's inauspicious. There's such things. And that's from the material point of view. And the spiritual point of view, everything's transcendental.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I have a comment and a question, Maharaj. So the comment is like the virtual Vrindavan Yatra. So you are presenting us with the actual pictures of the places, and then you are explaining about the pastime, which helps us to relate and release that very nicely, Maharaj, and thank you for that. That gave me the realization that why the temples were built in the olden days. Like temples were more like your PowerPoint, Maharaj. For the others where they can't see the PowerPoint, they can see the temple and understand the pastimes. It's like a living examples. That's how I felt it.
I don't understand your question.
It's a comment, Maharaj. Like
I don't understand your comment.
okay.
And other people are shaking their head like, what? So I don't think you need to say it again.
Okay, Maharaj. So morning.
If you can go on pilgrimage to holy places and see temples and deities, go for it.
Yes.
And when it's pandemic, you don't do that because you might not come back.
Yes. So my point is same. When you are giving us the virtual tour, it feels like we are seeing the actual places.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Maharaj. And the question comes from us, the auspicious time and the auspicious day, right? So even now, it's good to even in the Krishna conscious standpoint, right? Like it's good to choose the auspicious day when we are doing a new beginning or new task or something like that.
It's not so important. You can consider and you cannot consider. Because superlative, that which trumps all auspiciousness is submission to Krishna. But we depending upon one's training and background and faith and things like that, you may consider those things. You may not consider those things. Okay?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
Now, here's a little comment. I don't know this for a fact, but I learned from Bhurijan. Bhakti Siddhanta never began a journey on a Thursday morning because it's inauspicious. So I was going to be leaving Vrindavan. He said, "You pack your suitcase before before the afternoon. No, it's the afternoon of Thursday. So have your suitcase packed." Yeah.
Maharaj, I am asking, what is the difference in Narayan and Krishna? Krishna is the avatar of Narayan. Narayan and Krishna are same.
Now, don't keep the microphone to your mouth because it's going to get. I know what you're asking. I know what you're asking. I know what you're asking. I'll explain to you what you're asking. You have heard Krishna is an incarnation of Narayan. Narayan is the source, and Krishna is the incarnation of Narayan. That's your understanding. You've said since you're a little girl, that's what you've heard. And so we discussed this the other day, and Amara can spend some time with you if you want, because we discussed this point the other day. There are traditions based upon the Sattvik Puranas that give that explanation that you just stated, and there are places in the Bhagavatam that state that Krishna is the source of Narayan. Not only he's the source of Narayan, he's the source of everything. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate means everything spiritual material. Everything. There's nothing outside of everything. It's everything. He's the source of everything, including Narayan, including Vishnu. And at the same time, listen carefully, in the Bhagavatam, there's a same chapter where that Krishna is the source of everything. It says that Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu. So this is a very simple understanding. Did we exist before we came into this house? We certainly existed before we came into this house. And most of us probably came through the front door. So we can say we came through the front door. But we existed before we came into the house. Did Krishna exist before he came as an avatar Vishnu? Of course. He has an eternal abode in the spiritual world. And he appears in this world as an avatar Vishnu. Like the front door. The conduit through which, or the means by which, the method by which Krishna comes into this world as an avatar Vishnu. But he's the source of Vishnu. And he's the source of everything. He showed that to Lord Brahma. He showed all forms of Narayan. And they were himself. But they're from him. Now, go back to what you learned from the time you were a little girl, and you've still been hearing it and hearing it. Krishna is an avatar of Narayan. Narayan is the source. And there are statements like that even within the Bhagavatam. And then step back, and although Krishna appears as an avatar of Vishnu, he's the source of Vishnu. Because it's speaking of appearances in this world, not the spiritual realm and spiritual dimension. Because Vishnu is, his function is in relation to the material world. Vishnu, the three Purusha avatars. Okay? Okay. So it very much depends upon the pramana, or the source, the evidence, pramana, that one refers to and accepts this or that, A or B. And the Bhagavatam establishes Krishna is the source. And it's very clear. And the authority is Vyasadeva. Okay, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In one of the slides, I saw that left side it is said, it's not the mistake of Varuna. He did not do anything actually. On the right side, it is said that he did it because he wanted to see Krishna. So I was a little confused,
That's not a mistake.
Yes, he did not do a mistake, but it is said he did not do anything. And on the other side, it is said...
he didn't do anything wrong.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I don't know if it used the word wrong, but that's what it means.
Okay. Yeah, it was not used. I got the point, Maharaj. Thank you. And next one is why there is a comparison between Akrura and the other Vrajavasis and other things,
Because they went to the same place and they saw the same thing. They went to a lake that's a place within the river Jamuna, and where Akrura saw the spiritual world is where they saw the spiritual world. Same place, not exactly they didn't see exactly the same thing, because Vrajavasis saw Krishna being worshipped by the personified Vedas, and they saw themselves with Krishna in the spiritual world. So it wasn't exactly the same, but that's why there's some comparison being made.
Okay, so my other thought there is, even Akrura is also a confidential service
Of course.
God.
Oh yeah.
So I'm trying to see, is there a difference?
But he's not a
between
Vrajavasi.
Okay, I mean, still he was living in Mathura. I don't know, I mean.
What's your point?
My point is,
He is a confidential servitor,
So-
and he saw because he's a Krishna showed. He didn't have to. He showed. Just like Mother Jasoda. How many times, we discussed this yesterday evening, how many times had Mother Jasoda looked inside Krishna's mouth? Who could count? Too many times. N number of times. And twice she saw the universal form. Why? Why not the other times? Krishna decided to show his mercy in 2 times. And he wanted to stimulate, especially the second time, he wanted to achieve something. He wanted to stimulate her astonishment, and it worked.
yes, Maharaj. So is that saying gopis or Vrajavasis are at higher level and Akrura is at a lower level?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
How to understand that, Maharaj?
How not to understand it? I mean, he understood it. When he went to Vrindavan, he was appreciating how, but he's not eligible to be a Brijvasi. Narada understands, but he's not eligible to be a Brijvasi. Uddhava understood, but he's not eligible to be a Brijvasi. They understood because they're elevated Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord, but they don't have that eligibility. How do you get the eligibility? By following in the footsteps of. But they were, doing other things elsewhere in service to Krishna very lovingly. They weren't lesser in their love, they just had not received that same mood.
Yes, Maharaj, got that. One last question. I was still trying to understand Varuna, how his power is, or why he should be, or his servant should be punishing somebody on the earthly planet. I mean, his horizon is different. This is the earth planet. Varuna Dev is in a different dimension all the way.
Yeah, not only that, what jurisdiction does he have because somebody missed a rule to have them arrested?
So it's not in his kingdom. That's what I mean.
I understand. I'm saying, and on top of, it's not his kingdom. On top of what you said, it's and on top of that, it's like if you mess up on a technicality, you're arrested. That's not standard. So it is hard to understand. I'm confirming. Yes, Amara wants to answer that question.
Not answer Maharaj, but just my understanding that since Varuna is the ruler of all the water bodies and he was taking bath in the river. So
Well, how many people that take bath in the river at the wrong time are going to be arrested by Varuna's, the Lord of the water bodies?
Yes, ma'am.
Because it's not his jurisdiction, like you said. It's not clear to me. There's some nice answer, but I don't know it. Yes, you have something? Is there something online? Okay, we're done. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.